small independent brand Pollen have never come out with a sports watch, and that all changes today. This is their first step in the pool of sports watches. This is a dive watch and it's called the Mara. It has a lot of really cool details. I have one hands-on to show you guys, so let's flip the camera and take a hands-on look at the Pollen Mara. Pollen are a small brand that are located in the UK, and they make quasi-independent watches. So their designs are very distinctive. When you look at this watch, you're going to know that it's a Pollen. They are related. I believe they are owned by Anne Ordain, and their dials, I believe, are still made by Anne Ordain. You could definitely see some of that influence in their watches. And their watches are more affordable and accessible than Anne Ordain, because Anne Ordain are usually on back order and they are very, very popular. These are a little bit more, I guess, easy to get. That doesn't make them any less interesting in my opinion. This is a very interesting dive watch. It's not like anything that I've seen before. The design is pretty straightforward, but what they've done, the way they've put together this watch, it looks very interesting. It definitely looks like a Pollen. Let's start with the top of the watch, the first layer here. You have a domed sapphire crystal bezel. It's 120 click. Let's listen to that. Very loud clicks. And it feels really nice. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's loose, but it's a little bit tinny, I guess, the clicks. But other than that, I think it feels really nice. And then you have a lumed bezel. So everything underneath that sapphire crystal is lumed. Then you have a beautiful piece of sapphire for the main sapphire crystal here. It is beveled, domed, and it sits off the top of the case just a little bit off the top of the bezel, and it looks really good, almost like a UFO. I really like that. And overall, it adds a little bit of a vintage look to the watch, but more of a modern vintage look. I don't know how to explain that, but I would say more like a jet era modern look. That's how I would describe it. Then you have a lacquered dial that is very, very legible, black and white. So you have a lacquered dial that is matte finished, and you have their typeface. So they have their own specific typeface that they use for Pollen watches. I think it's called WIM, and you could obviously see that. When you look at this watch, you'll immediately recognize that. The hands are basically stick hands. One is rounded, the hour hand, and then the minutes hand is squared off. I have no idea if there is lume on the second hand. We will do a lume shot towards the end. However, there is a lot of lume on the indices, which are geometric, and then the hands as well. And again, that bezel is lumed. You have a screwed-in crown, a screwed-in case back. Inside this watch, you have the La Joux Perret G101. So no date. So there is no ghost date, which of course, again, I like. 300 meters of water resistance, and this is a real dive watch that you could actually use for diving. It is very legible and easy to use. This is around a 40 millimeter watch. If you measure it at the bezel, which is slightly smaller than the case, it comes in a little bit smaller than 40 millimeters at around 39.6 millimeters. If you measure it at the case, it measures in at like 40.1 millimeters. Plus you have these slight crown guards right here. They're very, very small. And then you have that screwed-in crown that sits really against the case very nicely. So when you turn it on its side, you can see it's actually signed right there. And then you have drilled lugs. There is brushing on the side of the case, polishing on the top. And when you flip it over, it does say Pollen right here, just a little bit of information on the watch. Everything is brushed, and you do not get to see the G100. Unfortunately, I would like to see the G100. That would have been awesome, because the G100 is actually a pretty good looking movement. So hopefully in the future, maybe they open up the case back. You could even lower down the water resistance to 200 meters of water resistance. It doesn't need to be all that serious, because I don't think anybody's going to be using this to go diving, but Then again, you know, there are a lot of people out there who really care about the water resistance. I'm one of them that recently I've not cared all that much. Lug to lug on this watch is around 48 millimeters, and you do get 2 straps with this watch. So this is their nylon strap, which has Alcantara on the backing of it, which is really nice. Very nice against the skin. And then you have a molded end strap, which is basically a rubber strap that has the word Pollen on it. And this one is used for diving as well, because this is a nylon strap, so you could use this and get this wet and it'll dry. Thickness on this watch is around 13.5 millimeters thick, somewhere in that neighborhood. It depends on where you measure it on that crystal. It's actually thinner than that if you measure it on the bezel, but if you measure it at the crystal, it's around 13.5 millimeters, maybe 13 millimeters at the bezel, depending on where you grab it. Then you have around a 7 millimeter crown, which is very large. Although this is a 40 millimeter watch, I think it looks really good with the overall design. On my wrist today, I have my Zenith Elite in rose gold, a thin dress watch, basically the opposite of what we're looking at today, but I love this watch. It's my dad's watch. He passed away, so I'm wearing this for a very special occasion. So there you go. And there it is on my 7.5-inch wrist. I would say this wears a little bit larger than 40 millimeters. I would say it wears more like a 41 millimeter in my opinion, because of the case shape. It looks more like a barrel shape almost, or a cross between a traditional watch and a barrel shaped case. But that's my opinion. I do think it wears slightly larger. You do have a 48 millimeter lug to lug and a 13.5 millimeter thickness, but you could see when I turn it on its side, it doesn't wear very thick at all. And the strap is really nice. You have a very nice buckle on here. It is signed with the brand logo on the underside, which I really like. And then you have metal keepers, which again, I really like. This is a really nice strap. And the other strap that it comes with is also beautiful. And there you go, lots of lume on this watch. The bezel is almost entirely lumed. It's just very lightly lumed. And then all of the numerals in the bezel are liberally applied with lume. So there's this faint glow to the whole entire bezel, and then the indices are also lumed. It looks fantastic. And then the indices are very liberally applied with lume. The hands also very liberally applied with lume. And there's 2 different colors of lume on the hands so that you could make the difference between the hour and the minutes hand in the dark. And then you do have lume on the seconds hand. There's a little pip at the end of the seconds hand, and that is also lumed. So excellent lume on here. I think this is a very good looking watch and a very interesting watch. Not your everyday dive watch, something completely weird, even though it's somewhat traditional at the same time. I love to see that. Price on this is $1,676. That isn't cheap, but this is sort of an entry into independent watchmaking, in my opinion. I think Pollen are doing some pretty cool things, and a lot of their watches are somewhat artistic looking, and you're getting very high quality, and they're also using pretty high-end movements like the G101, which I think is a great movement for the money. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this watch, and what do you think of the overall design? I will add a link to this watch down in the description below. Definitely check it out if you are interested in this watch. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very, very much appreciate it. That's really it, guys. Thank you for logging on. I will catch you guys in the next video.